All right. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the HHC podcast. I am your host, Jacob Moreno, and I'm here with my brothers Chris and Juan. Juan, how you been this last week?
Schoolwork.
Go ahead and say that again. You were muted.
Same old, same old. Pretty busy and a lot of schoolwork.
Yep. No, we're nearing the end of the school year, trying to get the rest of that stuff finished. So I know what you mean. And Chris, what about you?
I've been good. It's been busy, busy, busy. The school year, like you said, school year is coming to an end, which for some people in some subjects and everything, it kind of winds down, and in mine, it doesn't really. It kind of just pushes straight into the into summer. So we're moving. And it's a gloomy Sunday. Our team has 19 wins on the year, but hanging out with you guys, so I'm in good spirits.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. No, we'll be getting into the Spurs clinching the worst or the best lottery odds, worst team in the league type of stuff, as well as talking about what it comes from this new collective bargaining agreement that has been agreed upon, and also Pop and the others, Becky, Tony, and Powell. Also getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. So we have a lot to talk about today. Before we get into that, just want to let y'all know that we do go live at the 10 a.m.s every Sunday to the four platforms of Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. All of which you can catch us live at said time, or if you can't, we'll be on the VODs shortly thereafter. Um, Make sure that you follow us on Twitter at Heroes Half Court, where we do talk about the Spurs on the near daily. We do love to have that engagement with Spurs Twitter, and as the season is ramping down and as the off season is ramping up, there's going to be a lot more Spurs discussions for us to have. So don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to talk to us about some Spurs basketball. But with that being said, yeah, the Spurs didn't have a solid week. We did. I feel like I enjoyed the performances that I was able to see from our guys, but obviously they all came into losses. Most notably for me was the fact that we stayed with Golden State in the Chase Center. We stayed with Golden State for 3 quarters before it finally getting taken away from us, and that was with literally only KJ being in the lineup. Malachi obviously stepped up, but we didn't really see too much from any of the other guys, uh, or without having Devin Vassell, without having Jeremy Sohan on the floor, it's a lot harder to see the other guys start to look better out there because your best guys aren't out there. So the fact that we did hold Golden State to a close game for 3 quarters before letting it get away from us, it was certainly I was certainly happy to see it because obviously you have to try to find some ways to look at the positives out of a 3 loss week, and Chris, I don't know what games you were able to catch, but what were some of the things that you enjoyed seeing through the week?
I know it's kind of funny. It's like we're all busy, and the Spurs aren't the most entertaining thing in the to watch when we have so many things that you can consume your time with, right? So it's funny like how these past couple weeks has been like what you just said, like what pieces of the games have you been able to watch, what pieces of the games I've been able to watch, what pieces of the game, and then we kind of are able to kind of put them together a little bit. I was able to check out most of the Utah game, which even though it was kind of it's kind of an ugly game when we're not playing very good defense. We're not playing very good defense. Tucker is able to kind of go off and be very comfortable from an early point of the game. Um, so from that point of view, it's still pretty ugly. But I don't know. The games when we're able to spread the ball around and have more evenly distributed scoring is cool. Like so far this year, those have been the like what you said, trying to find the things that you enjoy about the games, right? Those have been, or sorry, like a game like that, which is kind of what we ended up with. Getting to see Malachi kind of lead the charge a little bit. You know what I mean? That's kind of something that I enjoyed from that game specifically. And then out of all the games this week, I do want to go back and try to watch the Warriors game because that seemed to be the vibe of what you were saying of feeling good about being able to hang in there for as long as they did. I was able to watch like spot little possessions here and there. My mother-in-law is a Golden State Warriors fan, so we were talking a little bit of friendly, banter between each other, and it was we were able to do that because every time that I would kind of talk, the Spurs would actually bring the game back to being close, and then it was a good, it looked to be a fun back and forth matchup. Obviously, I saw a couple shots at the end that felt like it turned the game, we're used to seeing the Warriors do that, right? Flip the switch and put people away. So. There was exciting things to be seen. Oh, also because of what you said about KJ, about him kind of being the one to lead the charge. I'm at the point of the year where if at least one of Keldon, Devin, or Jeremy is gonna play, then I'll watch. I'll try my best to tune in and see some of it. You know what I mean? Or go back and see some of it. So, I still want to check the Warriors one out, but overall, you know what I mean. Just trying to find the good, like you said.
For sure. No, and we didn't even talk about the Boston game, and again, that game like didn't look too bad, other than the fact that like it felt like Jalen Brown was just casually dropping 40 on us, and in the sense that just like it was just seamless. You're just watching the game happen, and then all of a sudden he's getting put on the bench for the rest of the game, and he's getting a standing ovation because you look at the box score and that man dropped 40, and you're like, oh, like was that really necessary, Jalen Brown? But
Yeah, and I'll be honest, like I can't remember, I can't remember too much about the game. But when I look at the breakdown and we're scoring 19 points in the third quarter and 16 points in the fourth quarter, that's you know,
it
uh,
was the
um,
second half that really caught us. And again, Jalen Brown just having a good game through the entire game.
mhm.
So it was just like him staying as hot as he was through the game, and then us slowing down in the third and fourth, like we have been. It was just like it showed like right there with that game. It was just like you got it, you see it, you move on. But Juan, is there
Derek
anything
White,
from
Derek White hit three straight threes to start the fourth quarter.
There
yeah,
you go.
see so,
There you go.
but Juan, was there anything that you saw from any of the games that you liked?
Um, I mean, honestly, it's much more negative thing. It's just disappointing that you're this far into the year and, like you guys said, the Boston game, like they just throw the games away in the second half. Like they just completely fall apart, and it's to watch. It really makes it hard to tune in and to watch, especially like what you said, Chris. Like sometimes you tune in and you're not able to watch until the second half. Like you miss the whole start of the game, and then it's just basically garbage time because they're already thrown in the towel, and it's
I've made it a point if I can try to catch some, to see if I can get in on the early part of the game. To be
yeah.
honest.
I didn't even get a chance to watch the Utah game, and so I watched the Boston game all the way through. I was out and about moving around and cleaning and stuff, but I was watching that all the way through, and I don't know. To me, Jalen Brown was deliberate. He felt like he could bully us and go straight through us, and like it was a little frustrating that, like, I know he's talented, but like, um, you know, make a little bit like of an effort to stop him or don't let him get everything he wants. Um, I know he's going through his little stuff with Boston or whatever, but it felt like we were an easy team to take it out on. Um, so and it was true. He was able to get like a lot of buckets and a lot of easy things. Then the this last game against Golden State, I got to watch most of it from the Golden State broadcast, and that was also frustrating because every time you watch it from the other team's perspective, they just kind of talking down and they're like surprised that like, oh my god, did you see he made a layup? This team is so bad. I didn't know they had it in them, and it's just like, oh my god, like
Yeah.
it's so frustrating. They kept making a point to say like the Spurs keep attacking the offensive glasses because they know they're gonna miss their own shots, and it's just like, oh my god, like I can't stand this. And they were like so surprised. They're like, this is a game we need to have. We're in this tight game with the Spurs, like, and it's this far into the season. It's like, well, your record is this bad because you are in these type of games with teams like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, even then, they still don't want to admit. I know we're a bad team. It's just like it just blows me away. Like,
Yeah.
some of these perspectives other teams have on us. I'm just ready to get away from that.
They have been like a lot of the away team commentators, they have been like kind of surprised most of the year, right? About like, man, like this team won't quit. This team, you know what I mean? Like we need to put them away now because they just keep coming back. Like that's something that we've heard a lot all year, right? So and Golden State, I got the parts that I did see were from the Golden State commentator side, and I did get to hear a little bit of that. I definitely heard what you said about like like we have to get this game. Like we cannot lose this game. And at the time it was kind of close. So yeah, I agree. I agree. Anyways, go ahead.
And that was a game we were winning going into the fourth quarter. It was only by one, and we
Hmm.
still ended up losing by 20 or 15 points. Like they got it all the way up to a 20-point lead in the fourth quarter after like being like a
Yeah, and I know I heard them say that the Warriors were shooting really bad from three in the first half, or maybe even the first three quarters or something like that. So it was just one of those things, and I think they ended up going back to like their season average by the time the game was over, which just means that they were raining threes, right? Swaying it heavily the other way to kind of come back to that average. So yeah, I mean it's kind of I haven't really watched a lot of Warriors in the past like couple years, so I don't know. It was from a basketball standpoint. Again, we kind of said last week, or I said it last week, that like as the Spurs season's winding down, I'm kind of taking from other teams more because that's who's going to keep playing. Um, so from that point of view, it was cool. It was kind of cool to see that like they still have that same exact that same exact strike tactic, I guess, right? Which is like I'm just gonna hit you in the mouth really hard in a really short amount of time, and then hopefully that takes the wind out of you. You know what I'm saying? So uh, I took
Hmm.
that away too. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and again, I agree with Juan in the sense that just like it is something that it can get a little tiresome when I hear that kind of stuff. But for me, I try to lean on the opposite way where I'm like, all right, and we're just gonna keep surprising you. We're just gonna keep showing that like, hey, we are better than what you think we are.
Hmm.
And so it always feels nice whenever I hear some of that stuff because it is just like all right, that just means that y'all weren't ready for us, and we even if we don't have the talent to be able to finish a game, we were ready to like at least like kind of punch you in the face, make you be a little surprised, right? Um, and so I don't know. I mean, like again, just like Chris was saying, as season's winding down, it's starting to get less and less Spurs time, more and more playoff basketball time.
Yeah.
And then once that ends, then we're right back into Spurs off season talks, back into seeing all right, who's gonna get that first pick. What are we gonna do when one thing happens to us? So there's been a lot of discourse about future Spurs, Jalen Brown being on the team. Uh,
Future Spurs.
in the coming months, and so I'd be excited to see that. What else did we see? We saw like the somebody was talking about how like the Spurs wouldn't know what to do if we ended up getting Wemby, um, which I think no matter who the talent is, if we end up getting some superstar talent, we're already in a better position than other teams were when they got their superstar talent. You look at the Mavericks right now, who are pretty much out of the play-in race right now, but maybe could make a miracle happen, right? But the Mavericks, who are pretty much out of the play-in race at this point, um, were that good as soon as Luca got into the league because of how good Luca was, right?
Yeah.
But the
Th-
team
They, they, they
itself,
got they got really close to their ceiling fast.
yeah, and it's because the team itself wasn't a good team until Luca got there, right? Luca built in a sense like became that playoff team, right? And so um, the difference between us and that Mavericks team is that we do have other pieces to build around, other picks, other players that are still young that can still grow. That we don't have an immediate ceiling for with these guys. That if we do add a top end talent, it's not going to be the same Lucas situation with the Mavericks. So I think that's something that to look out for. I personally like that's kind of what I've been thinking about when it comes to the Spurs and what our lottery odds, what the lottery looks like for us, is just thinking about like what other teams have done when they got their top end talent.
Hmm.
What did what not the Kings? What did the Timberwolves look like with Cat? What did um, obviously like the Lakers, they ended up getting like the LeBron stuff, but like um what did like Phoenix turn into? What did Utah turn into when their guys finally flourished, even if they weren't top picks in the draft? Stuff like that I try to think about, and I try to look at those teams and see like, okay, it took Phoenix that long with Devin Booker because they just didn't have the other talent around him at that point either.
Hmm.
And so um there are a lot of things like that I think go into what this offseason holds for us. Um, just to kind of keep your mind fresh, keep your mind thinking about what the future holds, because we've never really been in this position until until this last year, until yeah, exactly, like until these last couple years. So, Chris, is there anything that you think like you try to think about going into the lottery, into what the offseason holds for the Spurs?
I mean, it's tough because it all feels so malleable and it all feels so uh, like impermanent. You know what I'm saying? Or temporary. Uh, um, so you want to feel like you want to picture a team that includes Devin and Keldon and Jeremy, and then you start to run into the exact same feelings that we had 2 years ago, which is where you could just see so clearly the future with a guy like DeJounte Murray, Derek White, Jakob. You know what I'm saying? So it's tough, right? We're kind of like scorned lovers or something like that. We've been, you know what I mean? We're afraid to kind of get back into that commitment about it. So I just try to think what you said, like take a step back. This is kind of what we're gonna have at our disposal, when the time comes. Um, we can jump into these numbers in terms of like what the Spurs are looking to potentially have, and I know a lot of people have covered this and talked about it, but just to kind of give frame of reference about like where we sit. So like right now, at least like I had pulled up on Tankathon, um, and it has us sitting like in that third position underneath Houston still. So I don't know if that's all the way accurate, or if and right now we're tied, but I guess we have the tiebreaker over Houston. So I mean, just thinking about it that way of like, okay, the likelihood of us getting a top six pick right now, you know what I'm saying? Like what you said, we're gonna be in a good position to just keep building, keep adding. I like the discussion that was going on from the point of view of like the conversations that were going on, where it was kind of like, if when we get, or if we were to get the big prize, right? Like, or like, let's say one of the two, right? The ones that really push the team forward. Do you do you feel the pressure to expedite the process, right? Like I like those conversations. I think they're fun to have, and I could see merit in both. I haven't really looked at like who's on the free agency market for like next year, and would that be worth it and all that kind of stuff. I would err on the side of on the being realistic. I would err on the side of, let's just take our time with it and keep our assets and keep growing and seeing what we are going to have. But like what you just said, what if Jaylen Brown comes on TV tomorrow and says, "Oh, I don't want to be in Boston," and then the next day somebody's reporting that he has a list of teams that he wants to go to, and like San Antonio's on the list. You know what I'm saying? Like, who knows if that like universe, all of a sudden that's the universe we're living in tomorrow? Well, then now my brain is like, okay, so if he wants to come here, and we're on the verge of getting somebody that's going to push us forward, how can we make everybody happy in that sense? You know what I'm saying? So I'm down to I feel like we have a lot of options, so I don't view that as a negative as the season's coming to an end.
Hmm. And Juan, again, obviously, you kind of disconnected right there. You weren't able to hear everything of what Chris was saying. But what are some things that you think about kind of going into the lottery? What are some of the mindsets that you think you have to try to build as a Spurs fan going into the lottery?
I guess me personally, I'd be happy with just the top three pick. I don't I guess, necessarily think you have to get the number one pick. Um, but like, I don't know. Just I've done like the little draft lottery simulation thing on like the Tinkathon or whatever. I don't think I've really seen us drop further than 7 before. I guess there's a chance you could. I don't know, but I'm just keeping my expectations. I'm be happy with the top 3 pick. If you get 4 or 5, it'll be kind of a bummer. But like you could still get really good players. I think Luca was the third pick or the fifth pick. Third pick. Trey Young the
Third,
fifth, right? And those are good players. Got their teams to conference finals. John Morant was number 2, so even if you don't get your Zion, you still get a chance at a really great player. And it's just like in the recent drafts. I know you got your like Alonzo Balls and Markel Fultz at 1 and 2, and then Jason Tatum at 3. So like, just because the guy might not be the number one guy right now, you know what I mean. That's why like I'm not too worried because it's still a great chance the guy you pick at 3, 4, 5 can still really change everything. And then obviously there's the other side that you get 4, 3, 4, 5, and it's just like, okay, they're nowhere near as good as Zion and John Morant were. Um, I think even like players like Alex Lynn were picked like 5 or 6 or something like that. You start thinking like that a little too much, you scare yourself, and you're like, what the heck did we do with this whole year for?
Yeah, right.
So like, you don't want to think too much. Just be a little optimistic. I'll be happy with the top 3 pick, because I like the prospects of obviously Wemby and Scoot Henderson, but I like the idea of Brandon Miller before the tournament. I know a lot of people weren't too happy with his performance in March Madness, but still, like, if he's a really like fine player, he's just a kid. Hopefully it's not an indication of what like type of playoff performer he could be like if he tightens up in those spots. But uh, as far as trading for like a star or going out and expediting the process, like Chris said, I personally would probably weigh on the more conservative side and just, especially if you get like a Scoot Henderson or a Wemby, just like there's no point in rushing it. Just let them have the whole year to themselves, figure it out, and develop like as the guy, because you're probably not going to win year one anyways. So just like let them do that, and then if you're a bottom 10 team again, you add another piece, and then you can go get your guy. Like I would just be patient with it, because you don't want to sign a Jalen Brown and him take 25 shots a game, and Wemby take, or Scoot or somebody like that take 20 shots, and then the rest of your team is just like a bunch of underdeveloped guys who never really figure it out because they just got all their progression stalled through this quick process. We saw what happened to Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Julius Randle, like all those Laker kids, right? They all got stopped basically, right? Because LeBron shows up, and then they all get shipped off to like other places, and it takes them like another year or 2 to get to their point, and they're all fine players, and they can all be really, really part of like they all could have been part of like a really good team and a really good nucleus. Um, and it kind of got stalled and like and stunted. So I wouldn't really want to mess with that too much, especially like just let your number one guy have the opportunity, like Paolo had in Orlando this year, to just play. Be the guy, learn every situation, because who else are you going to go to? So then you can go out and figure it out. But that's my little philosophy, I guess, on this draft lottery, like, and hoping what we get.
yeah. No, honestly, like being as open minded as you can be going into the lottery, I feel like is um gonna keep Spurs fans from losing their sanity, because you're gonna have those guys that are like dead set. We need Wemby or it's a bust. Like if it's not Wembenyama, like we're not, like this was a terrible season. We like don't have a good direction. All of this stuff, and it's like you're gonna just get that much more riled up from the season just because you didn't get number one. So if you keep the open mind that like it's not it, my it, the chances are that it's not going to be number one. 14% chance means that there's a um, what is that 70 or 8 sorry 14% chance would mean like it's like an 86%. Sorry, my
There you
math
go,
was
Jake. There you go.
was pretty off. 86% chance that it's not going to happen. Um so like it's you're like you can't lean on that 14%. You have to think about the 86%. So um the chances of us having Wemby are pretty slim, but we still like there's still a lot that you could go into the off season, and we definitely will here in the coming weeks, like go into the off season and have a thought process about who your players are, can they build around these guys, around the top picks in the draft, and um, is everything going to work out, right?
Yeah,
And one of the biggest things
we
that's
can do we can do a like, okay, construct your optimal lineup if we draft Wemby. Okay, construct your optimal lineup if we draft Scoot. Like, that'd be fun.
exactly, and as we kind of finish up this topic of discussion, one of the biggest things within our own team, within our own organization, is the players and our contracts. So
Hmm.
this last year we signed Keldon to a great deal. It was like 17.5, 17.5, if I'm not mistaken, and something along the lines of that. It might have been like 22. Either way,
You talking
Keldon,
about Keldon?
yes, Keldon Johnson's extension.
Keldon is on 20 million next year, and then 19, and then 17.5, 17.5.
Okay. So Keldon signed an amazing extension with the Spurs this last offseason, and we're kind of hoping that, or I'm hoping that that's like the same level of payment that our guy Devin's going to get. But
Hmm.
one of the biggest things that changes that is the fact that we got a new agreement within the CBA, or the collective bargaining agreement, over the last, 2 days, something along the lines of that. Like it happened like late 2 nights ago, but there was still like April 1st, right? It was like 1 o'clock in the morning on April 1st. So um, we had the collective bargaining agreement has a lot of different things. I think one of the things that I want to talk about right now is that the new agreement on non-max rookie contract extensions, right? So now, if you're not getting a max rookie contract extension, you can still get a 5-year deal from your team once the extensions come up. So that means that a guy like Devin could get a 5-year deal rather than just getting a 4-year deal like Keldon got this last year. So that is I think that's something that's very big for the Spurs. There's a lot more things that we could definitely go into, but let's just start with this small little thing. Chris, what do you think is what do you think comes out of being able to sign guys to these 5-year deals? And then on top of that, what do you think can happen for the Spurs if we sign Devin to a 5-year deal like this?
Well, I mean, yeah. So I mean, that's just kind of where my head is at first. I haven't really thought. First of all, just in terms of the CBA in general, I was very surprised that it came out. Like, what the heck? Um, in my head, it is like, no doubt in my mind were we headed for like a lockout. Like, that's where my head was. So when I started seeing like the things, like the points, because I was working a lot this weekend. Um, when I saw like the points of like the of the CBA, I was like, are these proposals? And then I was like, these are. It went through. I was like, what the heck? So that just caught me off guard in general. So I haven't really thought about like, how does each rule affect like everybody as a whole. I've only barely started to dive into the discourse about like kind of the points. So I'd be down to keep doing that. But I mean, I like the idea of being able to kind of just give more security to those guys. I mean, from a I don't know, from a point of view of the middle, the like you said, those mid-level players, or that mid whatever, any stability that a team can get to. You know what I'm saying? We kind of live in the era where contract, or not contract extensions, but yeah, the length of your contract doesn't seem to matter as much, right? Because people just like opt out of it anyway or whatever, like say they want to go somewhere else. So I don't know. I hope that I hope that it helps to kind of mend that a little bit. Like, hey, we want, to show that we have faith in you, and we want to make you feel like you have security as well. You know what I mean? So I hope that it's a good thing for both parties, because I just want to see more of that stability.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Oh,
think and quickly, I think Devin's worth the money that he's, like what you said, to put him right on that line with Keldon.
yeah. No, and Juan, I mean, what do you think about for the Spurs? Like, what do you think about when it comes to getting Devin a 5 year extension, or even like thinking about later down the line? Now we'll be able to give guys, like I mean, if Jeremy's not a max rookie guy by year four, we're able to give him a 5 year extension. What do you think that adds to our rebuild?
Yeah, and I know I've been having some poor connection, so if I cut out here, I apologize. But I think Devin, I don't know if you would offer a 5 year contract to Devin Vassell. I don't even know if he would want a 5 year contract. Thankfully, he didn't like boom this year, because then you'd have to offer him 25, 30 mil. If he was like whatever. But I think he's on that path of like Mikal Bridges. We saw what Mikal exploded when he got traded to Brooklyn. He's since the trade, and like I think he's that type of player, and like I think he can score when he's more consistent and on the court consistently. But I don't know if you want to offer him 5 years. You know what I mean? Like, and just like kind of, you don't know what this team's gonna look like. We don't even know if we're gonna get a top 3 pick or like a Wemby or a Scoot. You know what I mean? To change the trajectory of this team. So like, I don't think you need to. I guess not like too much negative, but like kind of put yourself in the same position we were with DeMar and DeJounte. Like you don't want to cap your ceiling and like force yourself to put like Devin and Keldon as your best players, because you're offering them all this money for the next 3 or 4 years. You know what I mean? And they're taking up like a big chunk. And then for Devin, I don't think he would want to take a 5 year deal at 20 mil like Keldon. Like he probably would go 3 or 4 years and just say like I'm gonna be better in 3 or 4 years. Like I'm gonna get a bigger payday. Like I don't know. The more I think about it, there's a reason why 4 year contracts were the standards, because players don't want to, like, they want stability and assurance, but they don't want to like be trapped under like contracts and then not be able to get paid again. You know what I mean? And so like I don't know. I don't know what type of players will get the 5 year. I guess yeah, I could see Jeremy like in a couple years. He's probably the only player on this team, exactly like what you said, that I would think about like giving a 5 year contract. That's not the max, because you want him on your team
Yeah, it almost feels like
to
it almost feels like they're building like a second tier, right? Like somebody could be like the top of that second tier. Um, yeah.
Right. No, I think Juan disconnected again, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I see where Juan's going with it. Again, like just kind of going with the like traditions of the NBA. With what's been like the the patterns through the last decades. Like a 4 year contract just felt right when it comes to a player getting that level of stability within their organization, but also feeling like they're not stuck with that organization for too long. Um,
Yeah, and
but
maybe it was when you're doing negotiations. Maybe the players kind of gave up in this instance. Maybe it was a concession for them because they felt like they wanted to get something else on another point.
yeah. Well, and what I was gonna say is that like the one thing that I'll like kind of rebuttal is that like, well, we're seeing guys just like play their 4th year and then get the 5 year deal from the team, because of bird rights, right? And so like I feel like the pattern is that guys want that 5 year deal, kind of in a sense, no matter what. But I also understand betting on yourself to get more money like that. So maybe Devin doesn't. Maybe with this Well, no, I don't know. With this type of thing, like it's still going to be the same. Where like maybe Devin still wants to bet on himself and doesn't agree to the extension at the beginning of the offseason. So then he plays through it and he wants the extension later in the offseason. So
And specifically for us though, like what like Juan was saying about like, do we want to commit to the money even if we don't know like what our future is just yet? Like we're gonna figure that out first. You know what I mean? By the time it comes to signing Devin, we're gonna know more about that. So, the same way that Keldon, we always thought like, man, in a year from now, in 2 years from now, Keldon's contract could feel like we're underpaying him. You know what I'm saying? It's like Devin Vassell on a 19 to 20 or let's say it was exactly like Keldon's and it was like 20 19 17 5, or if it went the other way, who cares, and it got bigger. Like I feel like that would be a movable asset if at some point 2 years down the line you felt like he was capping your ceiling, like you were saying. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think that we would get to a point where well, the Spurs specifically, other teams might do this, but I don't know if we would get to the point where we're paying somebody that kind of money and then being like dang, nobody wants this guy now, and now we just have to hang on to him. I would hope that we don't do that. I have faith in us.
I know we signed Derek White to that extension, and after like a couple years, the team wasn't working out, and they moved him.
Yeah,
And
and you bring up Derek White, and when I look at Boston's books, I look at Derek White and Marcus Smart making that same kind of money right next to each other, and me as an outsider, I'm like, dang, I'm like, they're gonna have to make a decision on one of those guys like next year. Like that's how my brain works when I look at it from their point. So I could see somebody looking at our books and being like, oh man, they did that with Keldon and Devin. You know what I'm saying? Like I could see it. But yeah, so it's interesting that you brought up Derek, but like you said, he was he it was movable. You know what I mean?
I
it
mean,
was
like when I'm
movable
playing
and
in 2K, I'm signing all these guys to 5-year extensions. Like that's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
happen. Like I'm gonna
yeah.
have everybody on my team long term.
I just started one right now where I got Chet Holmgren, number one pick, and then I got Scoot and Wemby in the next draft,
yeah.
and so they're making the cheap money, and so I signed Devin and Keldon, and I think I even picked up Jeremy in that same draft too, and I just signed them to all, or I signed like our guys now. I signed them to heavy money. I was like, all right, we'll be
Yep.
fine, and they're disgruntled because at the same time that they're making all the money.
No, and there's more things that we can talk about with this collective bargaining agreement. That was literally only one part um, of the agreement, and there's still more to come. I haven't seen anything talking about players like sitting out for seasons, like to hold out from their teams. Like I haven't seen anything on that, and I feel like
In
that
terms of
has
like
to be
repercussions or consequences like that.
yes, yeah, like whether or not there is going to be any of that, right?
Hmm.
Um, and
That's
so
because in the
that
NBA,
the
these
fact,
guys get guaranteed money, and they can just sign their contract even though they know they're going to be unhappy next week, and you're just like, I'm out of here. Like trade me. Like get me out of Minnesota. Like they can do stuff like that. I don't think that's why they don't hold out. It's because like in the NFL and those other guaranteed money, there's nothing to rely on to like fall back on. In the NBA, they just sign their contracts. Like look at Ben Simmons. That guy is getting paid like all his money no matter what. And he's gonna get bounced from another team probably after this year. So like I don't think there's gonna be a
Yeah, yeah, but that like that's the stuff that surprises me though, because like when you're a players union, it's not, you can't just look out for the guy. Like Ben Simmons was able to sign that deal because of his performance prior to his collapse. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
like you don't get that as a mid to lower level player. You know what I'm saying? The NBA's putting all their leverage on you. You know what I'm saying at that point. So it just surprises me that the players aren't willing to back off on some of that stuff, because it's going to benefit so many of those mid to lower level players, and the upper level players are not going to feel that same kind of pressure. You know what I'm saying? So it's just surprising to me that I was expecting it to pull back. I think like Jake was saying, you know what I'm saying? I was
mhm.
expecting a lockout for sure.
And
Or honestly, I was.
yeah, and again, like they through the day, through all of yesterday, like there was still more things to come. So I'm expecting more news throughout today, and even next day. Like I'm expecting news to just trickle out of like, okay, this is what else was agreed upon within the collective bargaining agreement,
Hmm.
and so I'm just surprised that I haven't heard anything about that the specific players holding out kind of repercussion or anything like that yet. And so that's something that I think that to look out for in terms of what's gonna come from this collective bargaining agreement. I think the thing that I wanted to talk about, the biggest thing I wanted to talk about was the fact that they're going to start prohibiting higher spending teams to expand more opportunities for the lower and mid level spending teams, and that's that's us in the lower and mid level spending of the league, right? And so what the league is going to do is they're going to add the second salary cap apron where teams that are $17.5 million over the tax line can no longer use the mid-level exception. They can't use cash in trades. They can't trade any of their first-round picks that are 7 years away or farther, and they cannot sign players on in the buyout market. And so they had some examples. I think that one of them was like Boston wouldn't have been able to get Danilo Gallinari, which ended up being a non-factor. But like Golden State wouldn't have been able to get Dante DiVincenzo. Um, let's see,
I think it's the Clippers and John
Patty.
Wall.
Yeah, the Clippers wouldn't have been able to get John Wall. Patty wouldn't have been able to go to Brooklyn. Norman Powell and Robert Covington would not have been allowed because they would have taken more money than they sent out to the Blazers. So um, things like that, where we're stopping these higher markets, these bigger markets, from being able to just be the bigger market and spend all that money, you know. And so I think that's a big deal for the Spurs because it levels the playing field. It truly does. It keeps players. It keeps every single player from wanting to be in those larger markets because of how much money that the team would be willing to use, and it gives us more opportunities to be able to trade because we're still able to like use the cash, still able to use our picks, and obviously have the mid level exception for players trying to just stay in the league and stuff like that. So I think it is a big deal um, within not just like the league or not just the Spurs, not just the Lakers, but like the league as a whole, stuff like that. So, Chris, just from hearing that, like little bit of ex- just from little bit of stuff from the CBA, from the ESPN article that I read, what are some things that you take away from having like limiting the larger market teams?
Like at face value, I like the idea of what you're saying about like, okay, we're gonna prohibit some of the upper to help some of the mid. Like that stuff makes sense, but it's interesting when you were naming off the people. When you got to like, okay, Patty Mills going to Brooklyn, that's like that was also kind of like or what kind of money was he making at that point for us? You know what I mean? Like, was that a good financial decision for us? And if so, are we not able to make those decisions now? You know what I'm saying? As a team that was kind of in the middle, and those kind of decisions to give up those players to the higher end teams that are making pushes to playoff, runs and all that kind of stuff. Like that's decisions that those teams like us are okay with at that in that moment because we know we're gonna drop down from there. You know what I'm saying? So you're kind of okay with helping those other teams at that point. So I don't know, like that's the part that's a little bit shaky for me. Of like, do I am I cool with it? I mean, I don't really know how it's gonna shake out all the way, but that's just kind of where my head goes immediately when you kind of brought up the Patty Mills thing. Is like, is that going to stop a team from? Well, I guess that's what they want, right? They don't want teams to be able just to sell off all their players and drop to the bottom. I guess they're trying to stop that too simultaneously. So maybe that's why maybe that is exactly what they're doing. And I don't know. Maybe it'll just. I could see a situation where now a guy like Patty Mills, who can't go to a team that he wants to, now doesn't want to leave, and other teams don't want him, and so now you're just stuck with a guy like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. That's kind of where my brain immediately took it though.
I know what you mean, but for sure, like you think about like we talked about Brooklyn, we talked about LA. Like these are literally all of the largest markets. Imagine if Milwaukee was just
the
like, all right, we want to use
the
our mid level.
the biggest one for me in terms of the upper level teams having a lot of advantage, the bigger markets having an advantage, is the buyout market. You know what I'm saying? Like the not being able to use the buyout market, I feel like is something that, or using the buyout market is something that I feel like these upper level teams were being a lot more uh bold with, maybe, or something like that. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like it just felt like that was turning into a much bigger thing, because the more players that opt out of their teams and don't want to be on their current situation anymore, that's kind of where it leads them to, right? Is signing trades, or buying people out, right? Let me just buy you out and let's get over with this thing. So that to me is like the biggest thing of like, okay, I can see immediately how that's gonna hurt a team making a finals run, but help a team below them. You know what I'm saying? And I think overall I am down with that. I know that maybe 5 years from now, when the Spurs are looking to try to find a piece to be the last thing to put together a finals run, 5 or 6 years from now, maybe I would feel different. You know what I'm saying? But from right now where it stands, like I like the way it looks from the outside.
Yeah. And Juan, is there anything from there that like you think you want to add to?
About like the buyouts and the big markets, really have much to say, like, or much to add, because I don't know. It's like anything they can do to limit them. They've been trying to limit the big market for years, and nothing's really changed.
Yeah. No, I mean, and this is for me, this is the first time that I'm able to kind of to actually understand what the collective bargaining agreements adding or taking away from the NBA. Like the last time this happened, it was 2012. I was not nowhere near as like I just didn't know anything about ball, and so then like try to talk to me about what a collective bargaining agreement was going to be, and ain't no way I was going to be able to understand that stuff. So the fact that I am where I am right now, and I can understand it, and um, I see like what they're trying to do. Um, it's exciting in the fact that just like I'm trying to understand where these both sides are coming from, and what this means for the NBA, what this can do to change the NBA. So in that kind of manner, even if this doesn't necessarily pertain to some of the Spurs stuff, there are a lot of things within it that are very interesting. Another thing being that like they're increasing the upper limits on extensions. So originally it was a 120% increase on the current deal, and now it can go up to 140%. So the example that they used was for Jalen Brown, because he's obviously going to be one of the guys that wants he's going to want his money here soon. He was he's set to earn 31.8 million in 23-24 season, which is the final year of his contract. And so originally he would have been able to get a 165 million dollar deal. Now that 4 year maximum can go up to 189 million. So a $20 million increase just from that alone is a big deal. And so obviously we're not going to give, like, the Spurs aren't going to give a max contract anytime soon. But again, like it increases the amount of spending for players, and it might start to again like not necessarily to the level of 2016, but increase the amount of money that lower level or mid level role players are going to want. So I think stuff like that is always like, or it could even take away with the fact that they're going to be able to get more money. That lower level role players just won't be able to, like, the cap space won't allow them to be able to get all of that money that they want, because how much money guys like Jalen Brown, Sabonis,
So
these other
that's
players are able
so
to
that's
get.
like where my brain starts to say, okay, so if I'm a upper level player in negotiation with a CBA, am I framing it by saying, okay, the upper level players, we want a little bit more money up front. That's where that percentage increase goes there, and then the mid level players, they get the 1 year extension, like on that 5 year. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe because like what you said, like I'm taking up the money up front so that he can take the time, or whatever. Maybe that's kind of where some of that. I don't know. I'm just trying to connect dots that probably don't need to be connected.
No, I mean, almost everything's gonna connect with another thing. Like there isn't going to be, with the things like this, with the collective bargaining agreement, like the both sides, the NBA and the NBPA, have to understand and know what one thing's gonna mean for the entirety of the league, not just
Yeah,
one player and not just one team. So everything's got to connect with each other in some way because yeah, like there's just a lot that can happen. The last thing I want to bring up with the collective bargaining agreement, unless
I'll
Chris,
say
there's
like
something
that's
that
kind of what I was talking about earlier. Was like that's kind of why I kind of roll my eyes at all this to begin with. I didn't care about the CBA. It says that's kind of how the NBA is. It's like so star driven that yeah, Jalen Brown's gonna make 189 million, and now that sixth, seventh, eighth guy in the rotation is gonna go from making 10 mil to 3 mil. And oh, you know what? We don't have room for you, so goodbye. Like go good luck finding a job somewhere else or like something like that. Like that's kind of how it's always been, and or for like the last 10 to 15 years, these top guys are gonna get their money and they're gonna be insured, and then like just gonna make it harder for everybody else, and there's gonna be like a lot of I feel like cap casualties and just like there was like that boom like 5 or 10 years ago, whatever it was, with like Timothy Mozgov and like, all those guys were getting like 18, 20 mil. Like they didn't want that to happen again. They didn't want like middle level players cap strapping, the teams. But now there's just like this like, it's going to be like everybody's either on a max or min contract, and it's kind of that's kind of how I see it. And until like I see it all play out, I guess that's my mindset.
hmm
It's just
it's
that's how it
fair.
is. And the Spurs don't really like haven't really been in that market. I think like the last time we've had a contract that not LA, before we let bought him out, was like a Pau Gasol contract where he was just like older and we were still paying him from when we signed him. Um, but like we haven't really put ourselves in positions like that to be like, you know, not being able to afford guys. I don't know, like or paying too much money for people. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to look at it from like our side because I feel like we haven't really put ourselves in positions like that, or have had players like the one guy that we had who would be affected by like all this stuff was Kawhi, and he took off a long time ago, um, and he was still getting paid like dirt cheap compared to what guys get paid nowadays, like at that time. So yeah, it's kind of hard for me to like really equate it to what we're dealing with or what we deal with here in San Antonio, but
Hmm.
um,
No, that's
yeah,
fair. That's fair to be honest.
exactly. And again, I mean, Juan brings up a lot of good points because um, it's just two different mindsets, two different ways of seeing how the NBA has been. I've always I grew up with this star driven league, so it's nothing new to me to see that kind of stuff, to see these guys get that more money. But Juan was in that transition. Juan was literally there from seeing like um, what the end of the 2000s looked like going right into the beginning of the 2010s. So, it's definitely two different perspectives on how we're seeing these things be positive or negative within the CBA. But yeah, Chris, if there is anything from the CBA, you can definitely shout that out.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of the smaller points, right? So, the minimum, the 65 minimum games played to be considered for like the big awards and stuff like that. I think that's fine. I'm cool with that. Like that. Uh, the in season tournament, I'm down with that. I don't really
It's gonna be a
know
big thing.
if I don't really know if it's gonna be if the players are going to be motivated for it. I don't think that it's going to like damage their health to do it. And from that point of view, I'm totally for it. Let's just see if it's a good product or not. It depends on how it's marketed. It depends on, I mean, at the end of
what's
the day, it's going to say it again.
what is the reward for it?
I
Right
probably
now,
just right now it's a $500,000 per player, and
yeah.
then probably just some title. You know what I mean? The mid-season champion or whatever they're going to call it, right? So I think that's probably what I don't think there is any other rewards that we know of that are attached to it, kind of like a, that actually matter of like hosting you get home court advantage or you get this advantage or blah blah blah. I don't think any of that's been announced yet.
Oh, okay.
The only
But
other
yeah,
thing
so
that
I
I
mean,
saw,
go ahead.
the only thing the only other thing that I saw with that was the championship game. Those two teams will be playing 83 games in a season.
Yeah,
So everyone else gets 80.
because they said that the championship game is going to be at a neutral site and they're looking at Vegas to do that kind of stuff. Like, okay, so if the All Star Weekend is losing its luster and all that kind of stuff, but people will fly to Vegas for a one game elimination, tournament between these two teams, and it even, I mean, yeah, it would suck if like star players don't play or blah blah blah. But I mean, if you could get to a point, and maybe year one isn't going to be the best tournament of its history, but if you can get to a point where you have an exciting peak, a mid peak somewhere along the line, then that's fun. You know what I'm saying? I'm totally down for trying those kind of things. So, whether it stays, whether it's great, whether it's bad, who knows? But I'm down for them trying it. There's one other one.
How does that affect your schedule though? Like, how do they know which game who plays?
It says the event will include pool play games that will be part of the regular season schedule beginning in the month of November. So it might alter the way that they have to build the master schedule, because they have to say, okay, this date starts the tournament, and then these games matter towards it's pool play. So these games matter towards the points that you're earning in this time frame, right? So it's like it's not that much different. You know what I'm saying? It's like, imagine if they took how NBA comes out with the player of the week is this person, the player of the month is. Imagine if they took the team of the month from the Eastern Conference Finals or Eastern Conference and the team of the month from the Western Conference, and they played just to see who the team of the month was. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't change that much of like what you were normally doing. It's just one extra little thing, and then you keep going, right? So it's kind of like that. It's just like, depending on how they market it, it could be cool. You know what I'm saying? It just could be cool. So it says 8 teams will advance to a single elimination tournament beginning in December. I think
Only 8 teams.
yeah. So they're gonna have they're gonna just build up tallies, and then the top 8 go to this tournament. I think that's cool. I think
And
that's
that
cool.
sounds like that also sounds like they're trying to see what a non-conference playoffs look like.
Yeah, I mean
If
that's a great
'Cause
point.
it's
That's a great point.
top 8 teams does not, like, as far as that sounds, that's not 4 from West, 4 from East. That's
Yeah.
top 8, and if 6 of them are in the West, so it's
That
things like
would be
that.
that's actually interesting too. My brain automatically goes to, oh, how many cool matchups would there be between like an East versus West team and blah blah blah. But yeah, what if it's just like all East and one West team? Hey, but what if it's like one West team, all the East teams? No, see that. Okay, so now my brain is going this way. If you're the Western Conference team, you're in a tournament versus all these Eastern Conference teams. Are you motivated to try to exert all this energy to beat these teams? Or are you, while all the rest of your competition in the Western Conference is like just watching and chilling? Or are you, you know what I mean? So I could see that side of it too. Go ahead, Juan.
I was gonna say, if 8 teams go, like, do the other teams keep playing the regular season, or do they just wait?
I think so, but I think that, like, the end season tournament will probably be like a 3 or 4 day window where you're seeing game one on day one, because it's 8 teams, so there's only what 3 rounds, and so then it's literally, would there be 4 rounds? Because it would be just it would be 4 on this side, 4 on the other side, and then it would be 2 and 2, and then it would be 1 and 1, right?
Oh, 3.
If I'm not mistaken, right? So there'd only be 3 games, 3 games total in maybe 5 days, actually, because 3 and 5 still sounds like a lot, but like, you're getting something like that going, and in that, like, last week of December probably is when the players get their rest, just before Christmas or something like that, and they get the 1 week of rest before heading back
Christmas is
into the next regular season.
Did you say Christmas is
Um,
canceled?
I said no. I said Christmas is the last week.
Oh,
So if they're doing it
That's a-
in is that like we're going to be their Christmas Day like lineup or something.
I mean, okay, yeah, I mean, yeah. Could you
Could be.
imagine? Could you imagine if the Christmas Day things is just the tournament?
Yeah.
We
Sheesh.
never played
Right.
Christmas anyway, so we're still
I
Christmas, just like that.
I could see the players being like motivated, especially like a younger team, like wanting to prove themselves.
Like a
Um,
San Antonio Spurs with Scoot Henderson.
Yeah,
yeah, I was gonna
but
say
but
like,
but you can equally see like a
uh,
LeBron James guy like I'm not playing that shit.
yeah, I could see like our team specifically next year. If you had like a top pick, I could see them wanting to try their hardest, and I could see Pop not caring about it whatsoever. He doesn't care about no
What's up?
mid-season award. We're trying to win championships. We're not trying to win a freaking Las Vegas.
So then okay, so then at the best case scenario, what if the mid-season champion tournament that they do just becomes like over time just becomes the teams that are like the 10th through 6th seed just like playing hard against each other, and the top 3 don't really ever, they never really buy into it. But what if it just becomes this thing where those guys duke it out? It just be from an entertainment value worth it, you know what I'm saying? And for now I still think, the answer is, well, let's see, like, let's try it.
Might as well just try it. I could see our guys like I could see the guys wanting to win.
Yeah. Every year there's going to be up and comers, right? Every year. What if it just becomes
Trying to prove it, trying to prove
where you
themselves.
start to, where, you know what? Every single year I'm tuning in and I'm thinking as the fan. Every year I'm tuning in to this midseason tournament because I just want to see who's the hungry new guys in the league. I
This year
know
was
what
the
LeBron
key.
James I know what LeBron James looks like, and he knows what he is, so that's why he's not going to try. But yeah, what if midway through this year, when still now there's probably way more people on the Sacramento train than in December. So what if in December, Sacramento feels motivated to make a message, or not even to make a message, but our goal is to make the playoffs, and so let's just use this as a benchmark for our goal. Are we good enough to win some single elimination games that we're all agreeing are single elimination games in this tournament? You know what I mean? Like, you throw a $500,000 in front of some young people as well, and so overall I think it probably just has a chance to be a net positive.
hmm and I think one of the things that because this is very new, like, and I was so surprised when I saw that it said it's gonna happen next season. So this is literally like coming up. We
Yeah.
soon as the top season comes by, like, we're gonna get details, all of that kind of stuff. And so,
And they must
um,
feel confident that it's not going to add to the. I mean, they're framing it into the middle of the regular season. They must feel confident that it's not going to add too much to the wear and tear and the travel and all that stuff, because that's been such a big point of contention the
mhm,
past couple years, is just players load management versus players' health and careers and longevity and all that kind of stuff. So
exactly.
they feel like they have a way to do both. Obviously the players agree to it. So let's see let's see what it is, man. I think it'll be fun. Spurs
And
mid-season champions 2024. Let's go.
Yeah.
exactly. It's just a benchmark kind of thing to show our growth, right? Um, so that kind of stuff. Like, there's a lot of things that can come out of that. Chris, you talked about the 65 game thing, and I wanted to touch upon this because it's one thing. Again, everything connects with each other, right? And so um, we're trying to promote players to actually go play, right? Well, if you don't play, you're not going to be eligible for those awards, which means you're not eligible for the bigger contracts. So even if you are that good, you're not going to get that money because you didn't play enough. And so that I mean everything connects with each other, So even that 83 games, you get that 83rd game, and that was the 65th game that you needed, something like that, right? Um,
Yeah.
so
The
they
the meme, the memes were funny. The memes were funny of the Drew Holiday checks in, fouls somebody and leaves the game automatically or whatever. The memes were
yeah.
funny because you could see that happening, right? There's a world. I mean, then it's not going to be as I mean, maybe it is going to be as overt. The players didn't seem too concerned with what the CBA rules were prior to this agreement. You know what I'm saying? In terms of contract agreements and all that kind of stuff. So maybe it is going to be overt of like, I'm just going to check in, get my game played or whatever, and then get out. But
Hmm.
hmm
hopefully not, because that's the stuff that I don't like to see, where there's like the blatant disregard for each other, players versus organization or whatever, or the league. I mean, there's always the back and forth, and there's always the balance you're trying to find. But at the end of the day, both of them should be on the same team in terms of trying to build a good product, trying to have something that can be sustainable for both involved, right? And
And
so being like ugly in public towards each other isn't it's not pretty for the fans to see. So it,
yeah,
it, it wears
and
thin on fans after a while.
and I'm sure that the Drew Holiday one was more so on they're on the same page. I'm sure the team was happy like to give him his bonus kind of thing because it was right at the end of the season. So that's like one of
Yeah,
those
yeah,
things
yeah, yeah.
where like you're probably seeing the situation be a mutual agreement compared to what Chris is talking about, where it's going to
I'm
be
talk I'm
ugly
talk
and
but I'm talking about like what does Adam Silver think about Drew Holiday doing
yeah,
that? Not like
exactly.
the Bucks
Oh
are
yeah,
happy to help out Drew Holiday getting him his money. What does Adam Silver think about that?
yeah, probably being a little annoyed kind of thing, right?
Exactly,
Um,
because it's okay. Let's say he gets out there, he plays 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and then sits, and then doesn't come back in. That's way different, and it's the same thing. We don't want to hurt you. We want you to get your money, but it's way different than him starting the game. That's like that's Pop fouling Shaquille O'Neal in the first play of the game as a joke. It's a joke what he did. You know what I'm saying? To go get his money versus like
mhm,
just you going out there and playing a little bit and then leaving. So I can see
yeah,
how they don't want that kind of stuff. But who knows? We'll see how
for
it goes.
sure. For sure. Well, the very last thing that I wanted to bring up, because this does pertain to the Spurs, this is like a thing that I think can help us out in the future, and that is that they're adding a third two-way slot to teams. The thing that I thought about whenever I saw it was that like this year alone, we could have either had Joe back or we could have had the Darius Days who showed out in the summer league, and both of those guys were decent enough. Darius Days is kind of showing out in the Houston G League right now, and then obviously Joe has just kind of been all over the place with like trying to get back into the league. But either way, having a third two-way slot helps out not only in the fact that like you're able to like work with the G League a lot more, but I mean we still got our second round picks, and obviously a top 5 second round pick, you're gonna want that guy to be on the roster. But if we have somebody's second round pick that's in like the 40s and the 50s, um, that are a lot lower, but we definitely want to see what that guy looks like, Dominic Barlow in this last year kind of thing. You now have that opportunity to be able to use that second round pick and give that guy a two-way contract almost off the bat, and still have the flexibility to be able to have your G League guys coming to and from and things like that through the year, all of that kind of stuff. That again just adds more flexibility, and again bringing it to the Spurs, there's just so much more that we can do with having that extra slot. And then again, with injuries that have happened to us all throughout the year, just having that extra player to be able to use on a roster, it's going to be that much better for us, right? So, Juan, what are some things that you think you could see coming from having this extra two-way slot?
Especially like a team like us, like tanking and we're just sitting everybody every freaking game. Yeah, like it is like a benefit because how many times this last month have we rolled out Champagne and Barlow and like all the younger like fringe guys who are just like getting opportunities. Yeah, like for a lot of those younger teams, it's going to be a big bonus to just have that extra body no matter what. Um, but for like the way I saw it was just almost the same way for like these teams. I know we're talking about the awards. Like some players, it might not be about the awards. Like they don't need to get it, or they've already hit their quota for their contract extensions, and it's just another body to rest even more. Like when they need to rest a guy, they're not, it's like that much easier to just slot in one more extra body into your rotation. Which probably the CBA that was like probably one of the intended things is like it just gives more flexibility to these teams to hold on to guys and bring guys in. Um, yeah, I like it. I know you talked about Joe Weezy, but I mean I don't know if we needed to keep Weezy this year at all. But like like Champagne was already everything Joe's provided and more. Like and like you get more opportunities to find guys like that. You know what I mean? Like to just give them a shot. And I don't think there's not like a limit. Like you can cut your two-way guy, right, and sign another two-way guy. Like you can do
I
that.
believe so. I believe so.
So yeah, like it just gives you more opportunity to just find people. I like it um, because now, like exactly what you said, now maybe you can bring Barlow back for next year, because that's kind of been my thing. Is these games have we rolled out there and we're like, let's see what we see in Champagne and Barlow, and what if we just don't bring them back next year? Just go Wieskamp. Like, they're just what if they're just not on the team? But now there's that extra spot to where, yeah, you're probably going to keep your high second round pick on like a real contract anyways, but like, yeah, maybe you like what you get in your second rounder. You bring Barlow back, and then you find summer league guy or something like that that you like. Like, yeah, there's it's just there's just nothing but benefit from it, just to have an extra body.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think positive, or I'm trying to think of it in a way that feels like people are winning when we're thinking about the CBA, right, and agreeing to terms and that kind of stuff. So if the if the top level players are getting a little bit of an increase in the salary cap so they can make a little bit more money along the way, the mid level guys are maybe getting a little bit more. Okay, you're going to lose out on some of this money, so we're going to offer you a little bit more stability in years, or just as an option. Um, and then on the lower level, we're just giving them, like you said, more reason to keep your second rounds. I mean, we're starting to see more second rounds be included in large quantities in trades and stuff like that. So you don't want those second rounds to feel worthless. You know what I mean? You don't want role players to feel like what you said earlier, like about like either on a maximum or a minimum. That stuff is scary, right? So like I feel like it does feel like they're trying to find ways to have stability down in the other parts of the roster, and it not feel so revolving door for everybody, because the league at least this year and probably last year too, like it does feel to me like it's volatile, right? I mean, it's always been like that. That's why they always say it's a business, right? But it's just been very volatile for role players and for anybody who's not like a superstar. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So anything that we can do to keep people around and just see what we got, you know what I mean, so we don't lose out on any I would hate for the way that we value contracts and the way that we value players timelines and those kind of things, and teams timelines. I would hate for that to limit the amount of people that can have good careers from that point, from that point. I think they noted Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, Austin Reeves, Alex Caruso, Anthony Lamb, Jose Alvarado, Lou Dort are all examples of having success coming from that two-way program. You know what I mean? So yeah, the more we can get of that, I think the better. So I'm for it.
I also think it's like kind of setting up for like a expansion of the league. I really do, because like if all these players are getting their maxes, right? Like if you add two more teams into the equation, like you have more roster spots available for these guys, and you're just developing more younger prospects to just be a part of this league for a long time. Yeah, I think that's something that, like, we've talked about it for a long time. Everybody talks about Seattle as an option. Like, I do think that that's coming, and as these players start to develop, they're going to need somewhere to go. And I think that's something, because yeah, the league is really talented. There's a lot of talented people everywhere. I was like so surprised with Champagne, and it's just like I was like wondering, like I was like, where was this guy before he showed up on the Spurs? Because like, yeah, he might not be like a top 10 rotation guy right now, but like, give him these opportunities to just keep growing and learning. Like, maybe in the next couple years he is a
Yeah.
guy you out there, and it's just like,
Very, very similar play style and like demeanor to a guy like Josh Richardson. So like we just lost Josh Richardson, and then you find a guy who is reminiscent of him on yeah, and from a place that or he's never been in your brain at all. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
yeah,
And I think like the biggest thing with Champagne especially is just the fact that like he fits the mold of what your 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 type of roster positions are going to be, which is the guy that can shoot the pill off the ball at a nice rate, efficiently, and then if he can do any of the other little things, that's just the added benefit.
I
But
mean, I
you
mean,
you have that guy.
he looks so comfortable and confident out there doing. Even when he's making mistakes, he just looks very comfortable. So like,
Yeah,
you just need to give players like that. You need to give players like that the opportunity to go out there and show what they can do.
Hmm.
because when you think about it, like literally, like to me, the biggest example is like the Quinn Cook guy when he was in Golden State, because he wasn't like amazing or anything like that. But all that guy had to do was just shoot the three ball, and sure enough, he's on a rotational spot for a ring winning team. So it's like things like that. I mean, you're always going to be able to add that level of flexibility to your team, just because now you have that extra spot. You're like, well, let's just find another 3 point specialist because we don't have one on our team at this point. So no one's out there being Patty the way that Patty was from the last like 5 years. So it's like things like that where we're able to kind of to fight our guys like that, find our next Patty, find our next Corey Joe,
Yeah,
things like that
I
where
hope
we're getting
that that's what it
players.
leads to. I hope it leads to just more nurturing of players, but also nurturing of players. Like we want you, we would love for you to by the time you step into being a role player, for you to feel like you want to do it with us because you've been here for 4 years now or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like I hope that that's what it leads to is all of my role players came from the two-way programs, came from this, and we just built them up. You know what I'm saying? I would love that.
Exactly. Well, uh, we can finally, like, transition this long CBA conversation into the last thing, which was just to shout out our guys, the people that have been with the Spurs, Greg, Tony, Becky, Powell. All four of them got inducted into the Hall of Fame. They'll be having
The final,
their speeches soon,
right?
or their. I thought they did get inducted.
Oh yeah, they did. Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did get inducted, right? And so they'll be having their speeches, they'll be having their thank yous and all of that good stuff here soon, and just wanted to kind of come on and just show our appreciation, show our love. We've obviously talked about Greg, we've obviously talked about Pop through all of this year, and the things are still kind of brewing. All the speculation on whether or not he's going to come back is still here, but I kind of want to leave that to the side because we haven't talked about Tony, we haven't talked about Becky, we haven't talked about Powell too much, if any at all this year. So Juan, from those three names, what are some of like your favorite memories, your favorite moments, things that you just really enjoyed about them and what they did with the Spurs?
Um, well, I like what Pau Gasol. I liked his character and like everything. He was really big in the community. He was in our HEB commercials. Like he fit right into everything we did here in San Antonio. He was awesome. I know when he was a Laker, just growing up with dad, I just could not stand Pau Gasol. And then you get him into your locker room and you're just like, this guy's amazing. Um, Power was yeah, he was amazing, and I wish we could have got him when he was younger, so you could just like have had him longer. I loved the high low passes he would make, just the passing in general. He was real unselfish on the court, off the court. Everything he did was, yeah, was unselfish. He's a really great person. Um, Tony Parker, obviously, we all grew up watching him. That guy, he was awesome. He's, I guess, a little underappreciated. Everybody loves Timmy and Manu. They're the favorites, they're the flashier players, but Tony was always consistent. Me and my buddy PJ always talk about it when we're like we're growing up and at the rec, like we had to do the Tony Parker layups because we weren't quicker or faster or bigger than anybody, so we would develop the little scoop layups to just kind of sneak the ball like right up over defender or whatever like that. um yeah, Tony was awesome. I mean, you asked like my favorite moments. I would never like just how excited I was the game one in 2013 in the finals. That dribble, 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 like falling over, bank shot, like that was amazing. I know we lost that series, and so like it's kind of hard to go back to that. That was clutch. Like that was amazing.
That's those shots give you confidence that you're gonna win the whole thing. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like off of that one shot.
yeah, and it was. I mean, that was awesome. And there has been plenty of moments like just like throughout. He was just one of those things where he was just so consistent and was just always steady. Like you just take it for granted. Like every time you see Blake Wesley running full speed down the court and he gets blocked at the rim, you're like, oh, geez. Like, all right, Tony. I guess like you start to appreciate like those Tony spin moves, full speed in transition. Like, oh my god, that guy was something else. Like, or for me, right? I'm a little bit younger than Chris and Josh were, but like you start to appreciate like, oh yeah, that guy really was pretty darn good in the and in fast breaks and in the open court, full speed. And Becky Hammond, having her like on the staff, being a part of the community, San Antonio, especially her time in the WNBA. Yeah, that's awesome. She I guess I don't know, but I get proved like herself immediately as soon as she went to the WNBA as a coach. So like that's pretty sweet for her. I didn't really catch any of her stuff growing up. My only memories of Becky Hammond was when she was in the All Star Challenge uh, with what I'm talking about.
Like team San Antonio.
Yeah, Team San Antonio, and it
Yeah.
was like old. Wasn't it David Robinson and like yeah? So that was always cool.
I feel like she's done it twice with the San Antonio team, but maybe not.
So yeah, there's a lot of good memories with all three of them, and I don't know. I feel bad because like I feel like I'm kind of desensitized to all this. We've been dealing with this Hall of Fame stuff for the last I don't know 3 or 4 years now, like from Tim all the way through this, um, and then to that point when Tim Duncan was playing, it was 2012, 2013, and it was like that's future Hall of Famer. So it's like none of this is a surprise. You know what I mean? So you're excited, you're happy, but like you kind of already knew this was coming. So it's like I don't know. That's me, and that might be like I need to like kind of take a step back and look at it. But like I've known all these people are Hall of Famers. Uh, like it's just it is nice to finally see it. You want to see people acknowledge it, and I guess see more of like the highlights. I guess. But yeah, that's for me.
Mm-hmm. For sure. No, there's I mean, exactly what you're saying. Like, you grow up and you see the success, and then you're just expecting the like what's gonna happen next. And so, for me, I'm happy that that I get to live to see through it. That I get to live to see through these guys getting the acknowledgement. Because all that kind of stuff you got like I didn't get to see Pop at his peak. I didn't get to see Tony. Well, I mean, I saw Tony in 13 and 14. That was amazing. But like, just like the later 2000s, right? That 2007 run, I guess, to be specific, right? But that's kind of when Tony was doing his thing. Same thing with Powell. I did not get to see Prime Powell. My first my first experience of PAL was in Chicago. That was whenever I first started to like know and understand who Pau Gasol was. So like that was again when I saw him go from Chicago to us, I was just like, that's cool. I'll take it. It wasn't a man. We got him like that guy, that name. And it's because I just didn't know who he was at the time, and I didn't really understand um, the type of player that he was, the impact that he would bring. So, and again, the same thing with Becky. I did not get to see or appreciate her greatness when she was an actual player, but when she was a coach, that was all my headspace was just like, dude, she's an amazing coach. She like you could tell she commands the presence that she holds from the players. So um, again, just exactly like what Juan said. When she went to Las Vegas, to be like the coach slash GM of the team, I was like, it's it, sold, championship. That's it. Like they're gonna have it. And then we all got proved right that she was going to be one of the best coaches, and certainly is a good GM over there as well, making all the good moves for Las Vegas. So um, I would love to see her come back, but obviously again, like just talking about Hall of Fame and what they've done in their careers, like all four of them, they've all done a lot that I just again I didn't get to experience a lot of it firsthand, but being able to look back at it now, I try to appreciate it as much as I can for what they've done for the organization. But Chris, you're the oldest. You are the one here that has the most experience with all four of these guys. What are some of your favorite moments? Some of the best things that you could take away from these guys?
Yeah. When Pau went to Chicago, I was like super bummed because that was the one that I was pushing for hard. I was like, we need to get Pau Gasol to San Antonio at that time. Uh, if young Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal like made my blood boil as a young kid, you know what I mean, and watching those playoff series and all that time, um, seeing a slightly older Kobe and seeing prime Pau Gasol, it like softened me up on the Lakers a lot in that time because I loved Pau Gasol. I loved Pau Gasol. You know what I mean? Like just loved his willingness to like work hard, do and be in the moment with every big moment. You know what I'm saying? And then obviously he could shoot and he could pass and all that kind of stuff. Right? His skills. So I've always been a huge Pau Gasol fan. Would never say anything bad about him. Becky, it is great to see. Like she's still continue. It almost like it feels weird because Pau is a retired player, and Tony's a retired player, and Pop is still doing his stuff, right? But obviously he's earned his resume and all that kind of stuff. And Becky, even though she's had a whole playing career and a whole stint as an assistant coach in the NBA, it still feels like she's like just getting started. So it does feel a little weird, like her being in there as like the Hall of Fame. Not to say that it's undeserved. It just feels like she's still doing so much. So and so is Tony. Tony's doing his ownership and all that kind of stuff. But that doesn't count for the Hall of Fame, I don't think. So just like kudos to her, right, and all the things that she's done it in a lot of different places. San Antonio, and wasn't even just always with the Silver Stars either. Obviously Tony, like you said, the ability to live in the era of prime Chris Paul and Steve Nash and Allen Iverson and then you got guys like Chauncey Billups and all that, and then it changes into the Steph Currys and the all these other type of players, and to be a consistent winner, a consistent contributor, a consistent leader. You know what I mean? Like he could do it with the speed, he could do it with the feet work, he can do it with his assisting. As he went along later in his career, he could do it with shooting. And you just the same way that you had confidence in Tim to get you through tough times in one aspect, you had confidence in Tony to get you through in another aspect. You had confidence in Ginobili, you had confidence in Pop, and you knew that together they would fill each other's gaps, right? So it's great. You know what I mean? I mean, I know we're coming to the end of our 50th season, which was just this big long look what we've done in our past. You know what I'm saying? So we're coming to the end of that. I had said at the beginning of the year that I'm glad we're doing it because I'm ready to move forward, and this kind of goes in line with all of that. I agree with Juan. Like, we went straight from all of the retirement leads to the jersey retirement leads to the Hall of Fame for all three of our big three. You know what I'm saying? So it's been a long drawn out process between the three of them retiring, jersey retirement, and Hall of Fame. So I don't want to demean it and say that I'm not excited for it, but it is like we've just been living in it for a while now, and so I'm excited for him. Tony deserves to be right up there with all of them. You know what I mean? And I agree with Juan about just like it's good validation, right? It's good validation that like he literally is right in step with every NBA great power point guard that you can think of. He's right next to every single one of them. You know what I'm saying? So I'm proud that he's one of ours.
Yeah,
I mean, how
for
many
sure.
other point guards in the Hall of Fame have 4 championships? It's just Magic Johnson is like the first one that comes to mind. Like he's up there, right, with all those point guards like that. I know Isaiah Thomas had 2. Think of anybody else, Jake. Like Tony's up there, and if people don't want to, give him a credit that he wasn't that good, well then, I'm sorry, Tim Duncan is top 3 all time.
Right.
If Tony's
Yeah.
not up there with the top point guards, then Tim Duncan is top 3 all time.
Yeah, Steph's the only other one that I could think about that has like same amount of rings, more rings, less rings, something like that
Well, I was saying in the
in
Hall of
that
Fame,
range. In the Hall of
and
Fame, yeah,
I know
no,
Steph will be there, but
yeah,
but
Steph
like
will be
right
there,
now,
but
yeah.
yeah, and exactly like there's not many,
And
if any, point guards.
4 championships, 1 Finals MVP, same as Steph.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, I
So
mean, again, you gotta try to appreciate all that you got, and just like Chris was saying, um, I'm ready to move forward. I'm ready. I'm excited to see what these guys got have in store for us for the next decade because we're in a new era of San Antonio Spurs basketball, and
Yeah.
I mean, when was the
We're,
last
and
time that we
we're
got?
blessed, man. Our tree is literally just the cream of the crop, all Hall of Fame between our big three and our coach, and we are. They seem willing to stick around enough to be mentors to our young guys in any capacity that they want to be. It doesn't have to be a large capacity. You know what I mean? They've just shown the willingness to do it. I'll coach for 1 year and then I'm out. I'll be in the locker rooms and I'll do all that. Manu helps with all of like the stuff that Pop used to do, and they talk about how Pop would take them to places around the community to learn about things outside of basketball and to learn about the San Antonio community. That Manu has taken on a lot of that kind of stuff and bringing the young guys to the community. So like we're just blessed. We're blessed that our guys who gave us. Who just like put us in a new level and a new stratosphere in the league are still willing to want the best for us and keep it going. You know what I'm saying? So we're ready to have them in that new role so that we can have new leaders on the court. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
it's good to there's so much to be proud of and happy for, with where we're at, and it's a good thing to take a step back like you guys are saying and just think about it, because when you're staring at a 19 win season, you know what I'm saying, like these are the things that you can draw from.
Exactly. Well, as we do near the end of today's episode, we do have a little bit of Spurs basketball through the week. And then we will have one last game next Sunday, but don't expect a podcast episode at that point because it will be Easter weekend. We probably will be out doing other things. But come back on the 16th of April, and we should have our final episode, our final wrap up episode. Maybe we'll talk about these last couple games. Most likely we won't be, but we'll just be wrapping up the season as a whole. We'll be talking about like what's in store for the San Antonio Spurs come the off season. So yeah, this week though we play against Sacramento, play against Phoenix, Portland, Minnesota. Next Sunday we play against Dallas. Um, Again, not big games for us. Big games for four out of the next five teams that we're playing, because Sacramento wants to stay high in the conference seeding. Phoenix wants to stay high in the conference seeding. Minnesota wants to ensure.
We could play spoilers to Dallas's playoffs on our last
Exactly
game.
what I was gonna say. Minnesota
I would
wants to ensure.
You say you
Minnesota
want to
wants
do
to
that?
ensure playoffs, and then exactly the last game with Dallas. Dallas. Again, I
I,
talked about it earlier. Go ahead.
I went to the game against Dallas last year on the last game of the year, and they were yelling at us, just in the stands, just like trying to rip at us and taunting us. I would love for us to go into Dallas and spoil their season. I
Hmm.
would.
Well, hopefully they are that close to the play-in still by that last game of the season that like we can, you know. Uh, Again, they are
I know
very
they might be dead in the water before we even get to them.
yeah they very well could be having their playoff play-in chances ripped away from them here soon. So um, keep on the lookout for that stuff. I'm excited to see us play against Sacramento today. Juan, I hope you watch this game so that you can jump on the Sacramento hype train. That way you have somebody to look out for
I'm not
within
rooting
these
for it.
playoffs.
I'm
You don't
not
have to
rooting for
root for
second.
anybody, but you just have to be happy that you're watching two amazing basketball players and De'Aaron Fox and De'Anis Sabonis play playoff basketball.
I mean,
So
I know they're good players. I've watched Sacramento before.
no, I just messing with you, but it's still exciting. Again, Chris and I have come on and talked about our
It's not
stuff.
exciting because we're already sitting half of our team today.
No, it is exciting because we're gonna see De'Aaron Fox drop 25 on us in a quarter, and it'll
No,
be
What?
some fun basketball to watch.
I am not right. No, that is not exciting.
I'll say this because I did say that earlier at the beginning of the show, right? But on a scale of 1 to 10 of how exciting it is to me to see them like talking about the Steph one that I was saying, it's like a 2. It's not that exciting yet.
Yeah.
When the Spurs stop playing, it'll get more exciting. But yeah, it's not that exciting yet. I just want to clarify.
I'm
Not
I'm
Jake.
excited
I'm
to
not rooting for
I'm
other teams to
excited to
beat us.
hear.
He said he's gonna drop 25 on us
Yeah.
in 1 quarter.
What the heck,
Well,
man?
it's gonna. I mean, I'm just being realistic, as well as the fact that if we continue to lose out and the Rockets, I it was a 2-2. The series is 2-2, by the way, us against the Rockets. So we beat them twice. They beat us twice. I don't know how that works in the standings. With like what else the tiebreaker is, other than like it might be a point differential or something like that. Um,
Probably division record.
Yeah.
Something like that, right?
Yeah, I think it
So
goes to
at the
division record first, and then maybe points.
there's there's a lot of different things that like come out with the tiebreakers, but we both have 19 wins. Um, I don't see us winning another game in the season. So it's like I'm probably I don't know I'm we might be bottom two by the end of the year, and that'll I think that guarantees us top 7 if I'm not mistaken. I know having number 1 odds guarantees top 5, but I'm pretty sure top 2 guarantees top 7. So
You know, I don't know about you guys. I'm like a little superstitious. Every time I hit the Tinkathon, the draft lottery like simulation, the number one pick always like or the number Detroit always falls like no matter what. And I
You're
just
saying you don't want to finish the year in 30th place.
I do
Yeah.
not want to. It
oh,
is
yeah.
a
I
scary
don't even
position to be. And
I would
obviously all the odds, and it's literally 14% chance for number one for 1, 2, 3. But like, it just didn't feel right to me. So I don't want to fall away to 1. Um,
It would be
it's
hard to catch Detroit.
yeah, it
yeah
would.
it
I
would
mean,
be.
I said that about Houston, and now here we are.
Yeah.
San Antonio,
With only 5
as
games
of right
left.
now, is a lock for top 7. If you're the second to the worst, you're top for a lock for top 6, and if you're the last,
Oh,
the worst, you're top a lock. Oh my God, a lock for the top 5.
okay,
So
so
yeah,
at
at that
I
that point
point,
butchered that.
it's all at that point to me it's kind of all semantics, like whether or not you're one,
oh,
2, or 3.
well then
But
if you're a lock for top 5 as the number one pick, and or the worst team, right? Detroit is the worst team, and they
yeah.
have a 14% chance for 1, but they have a 52% chance for
Yeah,
top 4. That means they
yeah.
have a 48% chance of hitting number 5.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's exactly. It's 47.9% that they will land in the 5th spot as the
So,
number 1 seed.
so they're just more like
If you're in the second place, you still have the highest chance of getting a top 5 pick because of getting the 5th pick at 27.8, and then the second one is the 6th pick at 20%, and then you go to then your third best option is the number 1 pick.
Yep. It's terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's crazy.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see what happens here in the next coming weeks. I don't know when the draft lottery is. I'm pretty sure it would be it's yeah. I'm not too sure whenever the draft lottery is going to be, but we'll be seeing what the dealer is going to be looking like here soon. Um, but yeah, as we are wrapping up, we just want to mention that we do go live on all 4 platforms of Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. We do go live at the 10 a.m.s, and if you cannot catch us during those said live times, then the VODs will be on all 4 platforms shortly thereafter. Make sure that you do follow us on Twitter at Heroes Half Court, where we do talk about the Spurs on the near daily. Again, we love having that engagement with the Spurs Twitterverse, and we love talking some Spurs basketball. So don't be afraid to reach out with us. Yeah, are there any lasting things that you guys want to say before we finish up today's podcast?
Yeah, let me just read off this list real quick. Bob Cousy, 6 titles. Havlicek, 8 titles. Magic Johnson, 5. Dennis Johnson, 3. Casey Jones, 8 titles. Slater Martin, 5 titles. Bill Sharman, I think I wrote his name kind of sloppy. 4 titles. Tony Parker, 4 titles. So these are all point guards, by the way, or some of them said point guard slash shooting guards. But these are like people that are from like the way back in the day, right? So it's like that's who he's stacking next to. You know what I'm saying? So just keep
Hmm.
that in mind, people.
That
Plumbers.
is, yeah. I was about to say I don't want to be
Chill.
JJ Redick and start disrespecting those guys, but yeah, that's quite a list to be part of, and Tony's right up there with them.
Yeah, that's history.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So
Exactly. Well, with my last shout out, I'm gonna say shout out to the women's NCAA tourney. That stuff's also been exciting to watch. Caitlin Clark has been going off with Iowa, and so it's always good to see the WNBA like product kind of get more brand exposure, just from college ball and from from their own winnings as well. So
Yeah,
a lot of
I've
good
I've
stuff
said
happening over
this.
there.
I've said this like not on the podcast. So I said it before. Women's basketball, just in general, women's sports, they're just like in the infant stages. The same way Jake just made that comment about plumbers for people back in the 50s and the 40s when the NBA and all those leagues were barely starting up. Oh, well, they're not as developed as players are now. Well, the WNBA, women's basketball, is just, it's like, it's out of that infant stage. It's hasn't been going. So when these kids and these girls are actually learning basketball and time and resources are invested into them and their growth and development, they're going to be better over time, and like it's just natural. And for people to be so ignorant and hateful to women's sports, it's just like it's insane. But like every year, you feel like you say, "Oh my God, we've never seen a player this good." But like they were saying the same stuff about Brianna Stewart, you know what I mean? And years back when I was little, like Maya Moore was like killing everybody,
yeah,
like that. Like yeah, these women's sports they're gonna get more love and more time. You just invest into them while they're young, and the WNBA is just behind the NBA, like by was it like 70 years or something like that, like they're behind. Like it's gonna
50.
take time for like the product to catch up, but you just gotta spend time and invest in them. And like there's a lot of talented uh hoopers out there, and it doesn't matter. Like I mean, I don't know. It just blows me away. People are just like, oh wow, this is actually good. It's like what? Like they've been good. Like they're playing basketball. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I don't know.
And if
That's just
you
my
and
little
if
rant.
you enjoy basketball, then you're gonna enjoy hoops.
Mm.
yeah,
Like stuff like that. Now, again, like I agree with Juan. I also agree with like what like in a sense like what De'Aaron Fox was saying. This doesn't necessarily pertain to women's basketball or anything like that, but like him just saying that like he doesn't enjoy college basketball as much as NBA basketball, and it's like yeah, because there are two different styles, and so women's basketball is just different style of play, but there's still beauty in the game. There's still a lot of good that can come out of it. So, if you can find your enjoyment, man, like all to you. I've been enjoying watching the women's basketball tourney this last month, so it's been good. But yeah, with that being said, y'all, I hope everybody has a wonderful and blessed Sunday. Keep your heads up, finishing out the school year strong. We'll be coming back to you on the next coming weeks, talking about the Spurs and what the future has in store for us. So with that being said, y'all, I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and we are out. Peace.